All right, welcome back to the Surrey Report. I'm joined this month by Rowan Smith from Citywide Mortgage, and we're going to be talking just that. What can we afford in today's mortgage world? But first, Chanani and Chris have the stats.
Starting with detached prices, benchmark price is hovering around $1,066,000. Now, year over year, that's still a 3.3% decrease, but month over month, we're up by about 1%. Now, we're not saying this is anything big. It just appears that the detached homes are moving towards a more normal market.
Surrey Townhomes, interesting. We are at $560,900 benchmark price, down 3.1% year over year, and down an amazing 1.7% month over month.
And in our condo market, benchmark prices are hovering around $430,000. Now, year over year, that is a decrease of 2.7%, but month over month, we are up by 0.5%. Now, that's very similar to what happened in the detached market. So our market seems to be showing signs of stabilization.
All right, well, let's get right into it, Rowan. We want to talk financing today. I want to go over some scenarios, and the first one I'd like to go over is I'm a first-time buyer in the market. What the heck's going on? What do I do?
Okay, so the first thing we want to look at is income. So how much income would that person have?
Let's call it $45,000 a year.
Okay, and as a first-time buyer, have they managed to save up a down payment, or is that coming from
I would suggest, let's call it $25,000. Parents just gave me $25,000.
Okay. So with $45,000 in light of the stress tests and all the rules and the rates that have gone up, qualifies you for a purchase of just over $200,000, which I don't think gets you very much in the market.
It does not get you just so 210 grand. The number you gave me earlier when we went over this quick scenario is not going to buy you something within the Surrey marketplace. So I need to now have you, Mr. Wonderful Mortgage Broker, get me up to let's call it 280, 290 to get into a one bedroom.
So you really can approach it from two angles. It's either going to be higher income or it's going to be higher down payment. So either the parents would have to give you a little bit more, and the magic number in our business is 20%. It's the most commonly gifted number because it gets people out of CMHC. It gets them to be able to do a 30-year amortization instead of a 25-year, so their purchasing power goes up. If you can get to the 20% mark, then we can get you with $45,000 of income up to the 280 mark.
Okay, and if no more money is an issue, then I'm guessing I got to increase my income?
That's right. That's right. So the only way to boost that is, job change, or you have to buy the property with somebody else.
Okay, so and to get to that number, we're talking what do I need to make? I'm making 45 right now. Where do I need to get to?
To get into a place that's 280, it would just be under 60,000.
60,000 bucks.
That's kind of the magic number.
Okay, so not super easy to get into the marketplace. That's why we always encourage people to get in as soon as you possibly can, because your foot in the door is really what counts. Okay, scenario 2 is a move up scenario.
Okay.
So let's say myself and my wife have bought a place 4 years ago. The market's taken off. We're doing quite well. We're $225,000 worth of equity in our property. What can we afford?
Okay, and it's a broken record that I always sound like, but what do they make for income?
They're at about 100. So let's say it's 60 each. I'm making 60. She's making 60. $120,000 household income.
Okay, in that scenario, they could get a mortgage of about $700,000 plus their equity for their down payment. So you're looking to about the 925 rate, and that's presumed. Is that a basement suite home or is that a non-basement?
Well, let's say I don't want to get a suite.
Okay, so then that's the number. That's 925.
Okay, so that's actually 925 in the Surrey marketplace these days. Actually, a good, respectable, detached property. So if I want to go from, it sounds like if I want to go from a condo to a townhouse, I'm not going to have much issue.
None.
And if I want to go from maybe even a townhouse or even possibly a condo to a detached house, it sounds totally doable. Now I'm taking on a substantial mortgage.
$700,000.
$700,000 mortgage, but I can get into that home that I might want to spend the next 30 years on. So that's actually the good news, is I can do something in this marketplace. That's fantastic. Now let's say I've been in that forever home and now I want to do the downsize.
Okay, yeah, so this is very common where people want to move from their single family home into something that's maybe a strata unit or whatnot, but they always want to try and buy the property first because they don't want to be without a house.
I don't want to be homeless.
They don't want to be homeless.
Okay.
And then they want more time to clean up or to move items over from one property to the other and sell it when it's more presentable.
What we recommend is always that you sell first, because the cost of carrying can be, owning two properties can be quite expensive.
It can be significant, and if you're in a on a pension, for example, having these larger carrying costs, it's usually not possible. And it used to be that there was some asset-based lending. If you had a bunch of money and you wanted to borrow money against your home, it was no problem. But that's not really the case anymore. Now it's not enough to have a ton of equity or to have a bunch of money in investments. There's a couple of exceptions to this, but by and large, asset-based lending at the banks is gone.
It's actually, so I'm worth this much, Mr. Banker, and they say it doesn't really matter what you're worth, it's what your income is?
Yeah, they only really care about the income to service the debt on an ongoing basis.
Okay, so no matter what, I'm still not moving until I secure the property I want.
Okay, so there is an alternate through some of our alternate lenders where they'll take both the old home and the new home as security, and you can put a mortgage over them both, and you can float it for a period of time. But that's a much higher interest rate, and there's fees associated with it. And you'd be looking at a payment in an example of an $850,000 house downsizing to a $650,000 townhouse of about $4,400 a month in interest. So we can build that into the mortgage so that it's, gives you a reserve, but it's still a significant amount of money and cost for the luxury of buying before selling.
So that's exactly what you're doing is now, instead of the worry, I don't know exactly where I'm going to go, you're actually paying for the luxury of that security of knowing where you're going.
Yes.
And you would likely have to do that through what they call an alternate lender?
Alternate lender, private lender. There's lots of different channels we have for that. So it's definitely possible. There's no question with this example we've given you that it's possible, but it can be expensive.
All right. Well, there you go. There's 3 scenarios, real life scenarios: first-time buyer, moving up, and then downsizing. If you got any questions about that, I'm sure Rowan from Citywide would love to have a chat with you about it. See you next month, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
There we go.